you very much. That piece was called Shapely Wound, and it's based on a poem by Sylvia Paskin called Surgery. That was the first piece I wrote back in 2017, when I started the project of writing music to contemporary poetry. And I asked Sylvia last week to let me know, to remind me what it was that had inspired her when she wrote this. And she said, "Everyone, anyone has a fate in store. One day, your heart will be broken, and it will bear the ragged scars of that encounter. You are bereft, bereft. But with patience and resilience, you can repair this, knowing your heart is still intact, and knowing too you mean your fatal one." So let me do some introductions before we continue with the second piece. I'd like to introduce the ensemble that I'm really privileged to have with me today. Over there we have Alison McNeil on violin. And she'll also be doing vocals, lots of vocals actually. And next to her we have Taylor Wilson. Taylor is a vocalist as well as playing the piano for us and a bit of percussion later as well, just to give really good value for money. And in the middle we have Joey Sanderson playing This is the Jello bass, and he will tell you a bit more about it later. It's completely unique. And we also have on my right Dawn Colshed playing piano, as you can see, and she will also bring vocals. And guitar and glockenspiel. Oh, I know, wow. And I'm Nicola Burnett Smith. How do you do? Different. It was written for a theatre show that was supposed to be going on in 2020, but something strange happened to 2020, didn't it? I'd already started writing music to a handful of poems that had been written by Anna Kisby. At that point, she had managed to get a job as poet in residence at Bristol University, and she was working with academic historians, specifically looking at witchcraft in the 1800s, usually in France, mostly in France. So this poem was based on actual court testimony of a case in rural France in 1886. We have Claudine, the wife of the murderer, and not even the alleged murderer, he definitely is the murderer. She's giving her account of why her husband shot the neighbour. I'm sure we've all been tempted on occasions. And a doctor is brought in to assess her, and he's struggling to make sense of these fears of bewitchment and these curses and so on. Did she drive her husband to murder the man that she believed had cursed her? Excuse me. husband listened hard. My husband listened hard. Judge me as you will. Judge me as you will. A murderer's wife is a victim. Delusional or false. I sweep up whispers. The doctor wants solutions. I sweep up whispers. I sweep up, I sweep up, I sweep up, I sweep, I So next we have another poem by Sylvia Paskin. This is called Winter Garden. And last week Sylvia said this to me. There is something subtle and imminent about the winter garden. The garden appears forlorn, even abandoned, as we can when we are alone, or even lonely. They are different after all. The garden promises something else. Beneath the earth, in the roots and branches of trees, the bulbs, something is stirring. Renewal, the promise of the spring that is to come. The garden will flourish again, and so will we. When I'm lost, do not try to find me. I will be with all. I can love alone, here, in the winter garden.
When I am lost, do not try to find me. I will be with all I can love alone. Here in the garden, I can love alone. Here in the winter garden. When I am lost, do not try to find me. I will be with all I can love alone. Here in the garden, I can love alone. Here in the winter garden.
Summer is over. It bleaching me to ice.
Sorrow lies like snow, like snow. Sorrow lies like snow. Colors have no echo now. Colors have no echo now. Bleaching me to ice, bleaching me to ice, bleaching me to
Now, this seems a good moment to introduce Joey's unique instrument, the jello bass, known informally as J-Lo. Joey, over to you.
Well,
Yes.
yes, I had to make this instrument because there wasn't one, and I'd been trying to play the cello and the double bass at the same time for about 25 years, and it really wasn't working out very well for me. So I basically designed the thing with a double bass bridge, a cello bridge. Everything internally is the same as a double bass and a cello, but on one instrument. It's got the bottom 3 strings of the double bass and the top 3 strings of the cello, and it works remarkably well. So it'll keep me going for the rest of my life, learning how to do this. I made it with a man called Otis Thomas in Cape Breton. And I was there for 2 months, and I actually played it at the end of the 2 months before I had to put it in a box and send it back to Scotland. So I just managed to get it at the beginning of 2019, which was very lucky, and I had lots of time to get to know her.
That's true, yes. Thank you very much. Our next piece is the Stabat Mater. In February of 2019, the poet Philip Vernon contacted me to ask me if I'd like to set his new version of the Stabat Mater to music. And I set myself a challenge to complete it by April of that year in time for Easter week. And it was performed in Holy Week at the Actors' Church in Covent Garden in 2019. And it's been performed a few times since, including by a large choir in Canada in Edmonton, Alberta. Not Edmonton, Enfield, Edmonton, Alberta. We thought that, I told somebody about this. I said that it was being performed in Alberta. What was it in? I said Alberta, Edmonton. Anyway, whoever it was I said it to thought it was in Edmonton, Enfield, by a choir conductor called Alberta. Anyway, so I asked Phil what had inspired him to do this new version of this very famous piece. And he's recently sent me an extract from a book he's reading. It's called The Bible, the Biography by Karen Armstrong. And here she defines the intention behind Lectio Divino. The biblical story was not studied as a historical event, but experienced as a contemporary reality. Monks were encouraged to enter the action imaginatively, visualizing themselves beside Moses on Sinai, in the audience when Jesus delivered the Sermon on the Mount, or at the foot of the cross. They were supposed to consider the scene according to each of the four senses in turn, moving from literal to spiritual in a process that marked an ascent to mystical union with God.
She sang
Our next piece is entitled Dancing Green. I'll introduce it by reading a poem called Refuge by Claire Booker. And this poem haunted me when I first read it in 2017. It reminds me of stories that I was told by my old friend Eric. And some of my friends who are here may have met my friend Eric. Eric died only 2 years ago at the age of nearly 102. Having been born in 1919 in Vienna, he and his family managed successfully to escape the Nazis. Eric actually saw Hitler walking down Mariahilferstrasse, and they did everything in their power to escape as quickly as they could. It was a very painful process, and this particular poem reminded me of how close they were to what happens in the poem. And how Eric used to tell me certain stories about the emotional impact of that time on him, as if the first time he was telling me it, things that had happened to him when he was only 17. And I think you could say the imprint of those moments have never left him, and he has bequeathed some of them to me, and I now bequeath some of them back to you. Just want to say that Eric was just about the best fun any human being could be. He was particularly good fun in the Terrace restaurant in London, eating schnitzel and singing, and just, he was full of joie de vivre, and certainly a role model for almost anyone who met him. So, a happy ending to the story. All of his immediate family did get out. So, what I'm going to do is read you the poem, and then we will do a bit of an improvisation based upon the journey that Eric and his family took. And then we have a little piece of music at the end that I've written called Refuge, about finding that refuge. But first of all, here's the poem. We must leave our bags behind. This is the black retina of memory. In this space, we will be naked as they who stepped into dark places. We are children, deluged by light, stripped of hair and spectacles. We are strafed by space and follow obedient into a night that smells faintly chemical, with black rag edges, stage flats, smoke, and uprights. We are strafed by night, follow obedient, stripped of hair, and we are light, stripped of hair and spectacles, deluged by flashes of bold, dancing green. This is the black retina of memory. We must leave our bags behind. to do a trilogy of poems made into one piece called... I forgot to bring the WD-40. It was actually on the list. This piece is based on 3 poems, as I said. They're all by Philip Vernon. Now, Philip, apart from being a prolific poet, is also an international peace negotiator. So he's seen a few things, and I asked him to explain a bit more about the 3 poems. So the first one is called Execution. Execution, he says the following, was based on the horror of seeing pictures, maybe actual film, I can't recall, of gay men being thrown off a building by Islamic State while I was safely ensconced in my London office. The second piece is called Nurseryman. Nurseryman was a kind of fantasy of a man who has fled civil war, lost his family, sleeping rough, in hiding, trying to get away. But part of him no longer cares if he lives or dies. And at night, he remembers that in his previous life, he was a plantsman in a nursery. He bred roses, and he named one for each of his family. In a twist, although I was initially imagining the Middle East, it turned out that he was in fact English. And he's trying to get to Dungeness on the Kent coast. In my mind, that would bring British readers closer to empathy for a refugee. The third piece is called The Interview, and Phil says, this was written after I watched an interview on the news with someone in Aleppo not long before it fell to Assad's troops. His quiet dignity and willingness to answer the interviewer's fairly crass questions at such a time impressed me so much. I felt I could only do justice to it with a couple of simple lines. Very humbling.
Down so light and slow. From rooftop under blue sky to meet the sudden sweep below.
then the government attacked. And fire leapt from roof to roof. And all the colours turned to black. For days the greatest rainstorms sluiced the soot from stumps of homes to stain the soil. I lost my wife to war, our girl to floods, our boy to flames. I fled with only what I wore. I hid in fields, in ditches nights. I named the rows I'd bred for each repeatedly and held them tight. I walked in circles, weeks, then reached this pebbled shore at Dungeness, awaiting boats to France or death.
Thank you for the question. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. Yes, yes. The shelling is more frequent today. Yes, yes. The shelling is more frequent today. And government troops are closing in. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. We may not have the chance to speak again. We may not have the chance to speak again. We may not have the chance to speak again.
We may not have
We may not have the chance to
again.
The chance
Again.
may not have
Again.
the chance
To speak again.
to speak again.
Very much. So we're coming to our penultimate piece. Let me do this first. Oh, it's all right, you're not. I was recently delighted to receive the blessing of the poet Carol Ann Duffy. She gave me leave to interfere with one of her poems. It's called Echo. And this is a bit different to any of the others. It's the first time it's been performed, so I hope you like it. So can we just tune? Aha, that's what it is. We were in two different musical worlds there. Now we're going to do our last piece, which is called Mina's Waltz, and this is again one of the first pieces that I wrote as part of this project in 2017. It is influenced somewhat by my love of Shostakovich's Waltz No. 2 from his jazz suite, which always makes me feel happy, but in a poignant sort of a way, which is what I was trying to do with this. This piece is based on a poem by Anna Kisby. It was originally entitled Mina Wolf Flees for England, 1881. And Anna says that it's based on her great-great-grandmother's story. She says, my own grandma grew up living next to her in Paddington and used to tell stories about her black dress, her Russian voice, and her forbidding stare. And this also gives me an opportunity to share with you the squeaky noise one more time. And my ancient soprano saxophone here, which is from 1930s Czechoslovakia. It only has one setting, and that is very loud, so I apologise for that. I've tried putting a sock in it, and it makes no difference at all, so I won't bother. Before we finish, I want to say again, thank you to Dawn on the piano.
Tilbury. She will never speak of this to you and me. We remember her as our grandmother with a rough tongue And she's not like a refugee. She is not like a refugee. She is not. She is